Everyone makes mistakes. It's only human to make mistakes. Even me, especially me, I definitely make mistakes. That doesn't mean we can't help other people from making similar mistakes in the future, and that is what I am trying to do. Personally, as far as the writing community on YouTube goes, I'm a little disappointed in a lot of the content that I see. I'm sure everyone here is nice people and does really well. It's just sometimes there's specific information that I feel like creators aren't getting. A lot of the points that are said by many of these channels are points that are reiterated again and again and again by various creators. That could just be because it's good advice. That's not to say all writing content on YouTube is bad. On the contrary, there's a lot of great content out there. I would highly suggest Shadiversity's videos on writing. They're very good. They're probably some of the best on the subject. Brandon Sanderson has some fantastic writing seminars and other videos about writing that I would highly suggest. Murphy Napier and Daniel Green both have series pertaining to tropes and easily have the best trope videos on YouTube because that's a genre I'm not a big fan of, but a lot of writing content I see isn't specific enough. It doesn't give you very specific information that I feel like people do need, and maybe it's because every writer is different and it's hard to give specific information to writers that aren't like you. That I can understand, but I still feel like there's some basic information that I feel like every writer needs to know. I feel like there is I don't see this enough. I don't see enough videos about the mistakes writers make and how future writers can avoid them. And that's what I would like to do today. So here are 6 writing mistakes to avoid in the future. Now, I don't have these 6 points numbered in any particular way as an order of importance, but we are numbering down starting with 6. I want to preface this first by saying that I am not a published author. Well, I am technically a published author, but I'm only self-published. I do not actually have any works published by any kind of publishing house or anything like that. I am not a published author, so you can take this information with a grain of salt, but I still feel like this would be very helpful information for many beginning writers to have, especially if you're just getting out of high school and you're planning on writing as a career and writing novels and stuff like that. So let's get into this, which gets us neatly into point number 6, publishing before you're ready. Oh boy, is this a regret. Now, I know the urge is there. I know you really want to write a book and you really want to get it out there and you really want people to read your stuff and give you feedback and you want to make this a regular career, you want to make money off of it. But if you are not ready, no one will buy your book. So save yourself the time and energy of having to go through the Amazon self-publishing system or going to any kind of publishing house and trying to convince them to take your crappy manuscript, okay? Let's put our egos down for a minute and just admit to ourselves that we aren't very good. And until we are good, until we have had trustworthy peers review our work, peers that know what they're talking about because they have some writing experience themselves, until we have properly redrafted our scripts, until we have properly gone through all of the work that is required to make a good book, we are not going to publish it at all. Now you may be thinking to yourself, but I thought what I'd written was pretty good. So, well, I want you to understand something. No matter how good of a writer you think you are right now, again, this is for people that are right out of high school, because this is when I started getting serious about writing. The people that look at you and say that your writing is really good are creative writing teachers and English teachers. And sure, I'm not saying they're lying, because I don't think they are, but at the same time, that's you. That is in comparison to other creative writing students, other students that are also amateurs. You're not a pro just because you beat other amateurs. You are going to be competing with the greatest writers in the world. You're going to be competing with Brandon Sanderson and Stephen King if you are really serious about this stuff. Are you telling me right now that your writing, as it is, out of high school, is on the level of Stephen King or Brandon Sanderson? Now you may be thinking to yourself, well, Christopher Paolini published at 15. I'm going to break it to you. You're not Christopher Paolini. Most of you are not. If you were Christopher Paolini, you wouldn't be watching this video about mistakes to avoid when being a beginning writer, would you? You're not Christopher Paolini. You're not Stephen King. You're none of these people, okay? You're you, which means that you have to do the hard work. You have to properly redraft your scripts. If you are really serious about this, you're going to put the work in. You cannot force it. You cannot force it out. If you force it out, it becomes a turd. So do not force your script. If you are not ready, if you have not had your script properly read by your peers or any of this, do not publish it. Don't. I shouldn't have. You shouldn't. Save yourself the trouble. Save yourself the time. Save yourself the time, okay? If you get rejected and your response is to go self-publishing, it's probably the wrong choice. The reason why you got rejected was because you weren't good enough, okay? So take the hint. Write something better, something that people actually want to read, okay? Because a lot of the people telling you that you're good are friends and people that don't want to hurt your feelings. So do not publish until you're ready. Point number 5, only let other people read your first draft when it is done. I picked this one up from Stephen King's On Writing, and I fully believe it. Because his reasoning was that if you let people read it before it is complete, you're going to have thoughts in the back of your head. You're going to have things in your head that are constantly distracting you, good or bad. If people told you that what you wrote is really good, you're going to have that little inkling. If you push it way back, you're going to have that little inkling in the back of your head that's going to be constantly bothering you instead of you focusing on your work. You're going to be distracted by a criticism of a bad aspect of the writing or a praise of the good aspect. So get it done first, and then you can show other people. Okay? I understand being excited. I understand that you want to show people some of your work. If you have a smaller work, get that done and then show it to other people if you don't like waiting, okay? But do not show people your manuscript until you've completed the manuscript. Number 3, second draft mistakes. The second draft is not a prettier version of the first. Let me say that again. The second draft is not a prettier version of the first. Now, what do I mean by that? A lot of people, when they write the second draft, myself included, being a newbie writer back 3 years ago, would only look at the second draft as the draft where you fix all the grammatical errors. It's more than that. One way of putting it, I think it was Neil Gaiman that put it this way, and it's a brilliant way of putting it. The second draft is making it seem like you knew what you were doing the whole time. The way I do it, everyone does it differently, okay? But you still need to put a lot of work into your second draft. The second draft is almost, in my opinion, should be a complete rewrite of the original draft. The second draft is a complete rewrite. It is not fixing the grammar mistakes. Again, there are exceptions to this, all right? But it is a complete redo from the ground up. It's taking all the, because when you're writing your story for the first draft, right, there's a lot of ideas that come off the top of your head. They're going to be all shoved together and they're going to be in the wrong place. The second draft is where you rearrange all that junk you just put on paper and you make it look good, okay? And you're going to have to do a lot of rearranging. People don't like to hear this, but you're going to have to do a lot of work and a lot of rearranging. The second draft is not just fixing grammar errors or adding bigger words to make yourself sound smarter than you really are, okay? Do not just fix grammar errors. You're going to have to dig in deep. You're going to have to read it through first time, okay? When you redraft, make sure you actually read what you wrote. Do not write the manuscript and just start redrafting, okay? Read what you wrote, put it down for a month, dwell on it for a little bit, and then come back with a new perspective. But I am going to warn you, okay? It's going to suck. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be awful. It's going to be something horrible and you're going to want to quit, okay? Don't quit. I'm telling you right now, that's the point. That's why it's called the rough draft. It sucks. So don't get discouraged, all right? And put proper work into your second draft. It should be almost completely different from the original rough draft. It should be a completely new product by the time you're done. It shouldn't even look similar. Of course, the core is going to stay the same. Think of it as a person losing weight, right? The person is still the same person. They just have a lot of fat trimmed down. They look a lot different. They look a lot healthier. They're probably smiling because they lost a lot of weight, right? It's a similar thing, right? You're cutting off all the fat, you're rearranging some things here and there, you're making it a stronger project, but you're gonna have to put the work in. Do not take the lazy way out with anything that you do in writing, especially your second draft. Number 3, distractions and procrastination. I know you want to play video games. I know you really, really, really want to play video games, and I'm not anti-gamer or anything like that by any means, even though I am cutting back on my video game playing quite a bit. As you can see, I have a Doom poster right there. I'm a huge fan of Doom. Probably my favorite gaming franchise of all time, other than maybe Uncharted. Really like video games, okay? I understand you want to play Doom. I understand you want to play Ghost of Tsushima. I understand you want to play Red Dead Redemption 2 and Grand Theft Auto 5 and The Witcher 3 and Breath of the Wild, okay? Those games are all awesome. I get it. I get that you want to play it, okay? But I'm going to say something that's going to be highly controversial to a lot of people that are big fans of video games. they eat your time, okay? Joe Rogan was right about video games. He was 100% right. And I think that's why it pissed so many people off, excuse my language, was because he was absolutely right about video games. Video games eat your time. Video games steal from you. If you do not have time to be playing video games because you have other things that you're supposed to be doing, put the video game down and get your work done. It's as simple as that. There's time for that later. Now, I'm not saying quit playing video games completely. Just cut back. You'll be surprised the amount of time in the day you have. If you're someone that's constantly complaining that you don't have enough time in your day to write, and that's why you don't get your writing done, again, because you're a procrastinator, right? Well, maybe if you stop playing so many video games when you don't need to be playing them, and you would have time suddenly open up. You'd be able to write. I did this, and it worked miracles for me. I think I play one video game nowadays, where I used to play games all the time. I used to play games on my PC, on my PS4, on my Switch. You know, I'd play a little bit on the Switch, I'd play a little bit on the PS4, play some Ghost of Tsushima on the PS4, I'd play some Doom Eternal on the PC, I'd play some Breath of the Wild on the Switch, you know? I understand, I love video games. But you gotta cut back on them. Do you want to be a writer or not? This is what you do. You cut back on video games. Video games eat your time. Video games are not your priority. Your writing is. Your book is. Your book is your priority, which means you got to make sacrifices, which means cutting back on video games, cutting back on social media, cutting back on all kinds of distractions. Get rid of it. Number 2, know why. Now, this is something I really don't hear from a lot of people. A lot of people do give you specifics on mistakes that you're not supposed to be making and things you're not supposed to be doing, but no one really tells you why. What do I mean by that? What I mean by it is you, as a person, you have a personal why. Okay? Now, I know the obvious one is like, well, I want to write books and get famous. Okay, that's not enough. If you don't have a mission statement, if you don't have a why you're doing the things you're doing, you're not going to get very far. You're going to burn out fast, buddy. If you don't have something or someone to fight for, something pushing you to reach that finish line, you are going to fail. You're absolutely going to fail. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that to be mean, but you're going to fail. If you don't even know why you're doing this, beyond just writing and getting famous, okay? You're going to fail. You're going to flop. So figure this out before you do anything. I didn't, and I got burnt out. I stopped writing, and I started, my mental health just declined. I just couldn't do it anymore. I contemplate quitting my job and stuff like that. Figure out why you're doing what you're doing. Get a journal, because I journal, which is a practice I highly suggest. Write down, start going through your mind, be honest with yourself, write down who you are and why you want to do this. Okay? If you don't have a center, if you don't have a why, your entire writing plan is going to fall apart. It's going to crumble. Figure out why you're supposed to be doing what you're doing. And the number one biggest mistake to avoid is not making enough time for your family and relationships with others. Relationships in general. Don't do it. Okay? Do not avoid your family. I understand that you're busy. I understand you got a lot of work to do, and writing is really hard work, and it requires a certain amount of time to do, and you've only got so many hours in the day, coupled with your job that you're trying to do, along with the chores that you have to keep up, because again, you're a beginning writer just getting out of high school, and you have to write and read. Right? You have things that are very time consuming to do. Don't avoid your family. Don't do it. Don't avoid relationships with other people. Don't be a loner trying to go out about this by yourself. I know there's like a romantic idea of the artist working by himself. You know, you want to be like Stephen Pressfield. Stephen Pressfield was miserable. Your family loves you. You need to love them back. They're important to you. They're the most important thing in the world. They should be part of your why. They should be one of the reasons you are doing what you're doing. Don't avoid them. Don't do it. It makes everything worse. It even makes your writing worse. You need your family, okay? You might become a better writer in the process, quote unquote. You might write more beautiful prose, but you'll become a worse human being. You won't be able to socialize. You won't have friends. You won't have family. Oh yeah, you write good prose, but at what cost? Another reason is, how are you going to sit here and write relationships and books, write things about valor and brotherhood and friendship when you don't have a friend? Because you decided to go at it alone by yourself in your journey to write. How are you going to write about love and family when you don't even spend time with yours and don't even understand how they interact? How are you going to sit here and write about good, loving, romantic relationships when you don't even have a girlfriend because you decided to go about it alone. Don't do it. You need to make contact with people. Just because you're a writer, I want you to cut your ego down and listen to me for a second, okay? Just because you're a writer does not make you above the people around you. You are not a lone wolf. You are not set above the people. You're one of them, okay? So get that through your head. You need to bring yourself down to people's level. You are one of these people. Sure, eventually you might get higher status because you might become published and you might have more money and people might start to respect you, but you do not set yourself apart from other people. Don't do it. Do not avoid people. Do not treat them like they're beneath you. It's one of the biggest mistakes I ever made, was treating people like they were beneath me, was driving people away because I thought, I'm a writer. I'm more intelligent than all these people in the room. You're not, okay? You're stupid. You're a kid. You just got out of high school. So stop acting like you're different than the people around you, that you're set apart from them. You're not. Treat yourself like you're one of them. Humble yourself. Be in relationships with people. I know this, like, what does this have to do with writing? It has everything to do with everything. Because if you cannot have stable relationships with people, it's going to affect everything. It's going to affect your writing. It's going to affect your personality. It's going to affect all of it. Get this down pat. It helps you write more authentic characters too if you're constantly learning about new experiences and making new friends. That's how we experience new things, is by spending time with people, and you can't do that cooped up in your room for hours of a day, only with your only ambition being to write and avoiding contact with the outside world. You can't do it. Sure, there might be an exception, because you might have seen some great portrayals of relationships in movies or read it in a book, but it's not the same. Do not cut yourself off from the human race just because you want to pursue your dream. Well, those are the 6 mistakes to avoid as a writer. I hope you learn a lesson from this so you don't go through the same things that I did, and I hope your writing career takes off, and I hope you go out there and you kill it, okay? I'll see you guys later. Never give up. God bless.